In this episode, you'll meet Jonathan Besley, Headmaster at Brighton College Handcross Prep. We talked a bit about how particularly Asian parents do buy brand when they're choosing a school in the UK. It cannot be denied. We talk about Johnny's own experience as a boarder from the age of 8. Yes, 8. And we talk about anxiety, we talk about common sense parenting, and a whole lot more. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with Johnny. Welcome, Johnny.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So we're here in Hong Kong. I know you've been here for how long? A week or so?
We've been here for about 6 days.
Okay, and it's been a bit of a manic 6 days.
Yeah, it's been busy. We've been sort of going around lots of agents, which has been fantastic. Having some great food.
Yes.
We've been meeting up with our current parents. We've got parents based out here in Hong Kong with children at our school, so we've been meeting them. Prospective parents.
Yep.
We've been interviewing children.
Okay.
Dodging the rain.
And dodging the typhoon. You're flying out tonight.
And we're leaving tonight, and I think just missing the typhoon.
Yeah, you should be okay. You should be all right.
Hopefully we'll take off just before it comes in.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into all of it. But I do like to start these conversations by just finding out a little bit more about you, if that's okay. And we just talked at the beginning. So you're born and bred in the UK. Do you mind telling me a little bit about your own UK education?
Yeah, sure. So my own education, I went to a lovely little primary school when I was very small.
A state school?
No, it was actually a private school. It was a private school in a place called Felsted. Mm-hmm. It was called Felsted Kindergarten School, FKS, and I had a good time there. I was quite naughty, I have to be honest. I was quite naughty, and I think my parents felt that I needed a bit more space and maybe a little bit more sport and that kind of thing. So I then went off to a boarding prep school. When I was quite young, looking back now, I sort of think, I was quite young. I was about 8, I think, when I went off to this boarding school, a place called Old Buckenham Hall in Suffolk, which is where I lived at the time. And it was great, actually, looking back. It was all boys, all boarding. It was about 150 boys. And it was good, lots of space, woods, lakes, climbing trees.
I mean, I know that you're the head of a prep school, and I did want to ask you about this a bit later, but the idea of boarding from the age of, 8?
Yeah.
It's had a bit of a bad rap, right? We've had a number of celebrities, like people like Diana Spencer's brother, is it? Earl Spencer and various others, and people like Jack Whitehall, who tried to deny that, boarding school is a good thing, but particularly boarding from a younger age. There's a lot of people who've spoken out about trauma. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Listen, boarding isn't for everyone. There's and particularly boarding at that very young age. So where I am at the moment, we offer boarding, but generally speaking, I wouldn't probably encourage children to board when they're 8, as I did. I think it's probably a little bit too young. Some children at the age of 8 are fine. But no, I think boarding's very different now to how it used to be. It used to be, looking back at my own boarding experience when I was at prep school, it was quite a sort of strict and quite an old-fashioned kind of environment. So whereas now it's very, very
I'm sure it's changed.
Cozy and fun and comfortable, and and the pastoral care the children get is the absolute be all and end all. So it is quite different.
So why did you board at 8?
I boarded at 8, probably partly because I was quite a handful for my parents. And I think it was just culturally what happened. Both my parents boarded when they were probably around about 8.
Right.
My grandparents boarded. Actually, my grandmother, amazingly, boarded when she was 5.
Wow.
She lived out in India and she started boarding when she was 5. So I think it was just something in my family that happened. Most of my friends from home where I grew up went to boarding prep schools at a similar kind of time.
But you're okay.
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I look back and I suppose there were bits of it that were hard. There was a bit of homesickness and that kind of thing, but I had a good time. I then went on to a senior school, a place called Gresham's, which is in North Norfolk, and loved it. I had a really, really great time. So no, I certainly look back at boarding with a lot of happiness, but I do look back at my prep school years and think, I'm pleased that boarding now is quite different. You know, the approach we have now and the way the adults in our boarding house interact with the children is very different to how it was when I was that age.
Yeah,
I sort of remember
sure.
being told by matrons and that kind of thing, you know, if you were sort of saying that you're missing home or you're feeling homesick, it was pull yourself together.
Yeah.
So very different.
Yeah. And to some extent, to a great extent, the same in all schools, in day schools. I mean, I went to day school.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a little bit more about, just tell me after Gresham's, then you went on to uni. And
yeah, so I had a gap year, which was good fun. I went travelling around Australia.
Did you?
And I went to Europe and sort of learned some French, or tried to learn some French.
Yeah.
Did quite a lot of climbing,
Yep.
and actually spoke a lot of English to people I met out there. And then I went to Durham University, and I did combined arts.
Oh.
So I did English, philosophy, and history.
Okay.
At Durham.
Okay. Is that still a degree that they offer?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Okay. My son almost went to Durham this year.
Oh, it's great. It's actually just won
Yes.
University of the Year or something.
So
yeah.
that in some,
So-
I don't know how they come up with these.
I don't know how
league tables is something that we
Yeah.
might get into as well.
was good to see that, though.
Slightly dubious. So how did you then get into teaching?
Good question. So I didn't go straight into teaching. I left university and I did a big sort of charity challenge where I drove from London to Cape Town with some friends in 2 ex-army Land Rovers, and through doing that we worked with local charities and we ended up raising a lot of money and publicity for some children's charities. That then took me into events management in London. So I worked as an events manager for the NSPCC, organising balls and sort of challenges and various things. My girlfriend at the time was a teacher, and she taught at a lovely little school in London. She had a class, I remember, of 4. She had 4 children in her class and sort of spent a long time sort of shopping on the King's Road during the day, and it all seemed quite... And I gradually got sort of roped into helping with school events and things. And then when we got married, I decided to change careers. So we moved to Cambridge. I did a PGCE and haven't looked back. I then went to my first teaching job was at College Prep in London, which I loved. And it's sort of gone from there.
So always in prep schools?
Always in prep schools. And I knew when I decided to go and be a teacher that I wanted to work in a prep school. That was always the plan.
Why?
Why? Because I just think it's a lovely age. I knew I didn't want to work with tiny little children because I just didn't feel like I had quite enough patience. And I knew I didn't want to work with what probably unfairly I thought might be sort of stroppy teenagers, sort of 15 and 16-year-olds. I thought, yeah, prep school is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Because they're young enough to be really excited about everything that's going on around them, but they're also old enough to have really interesting, stimulating conversations with.
Let's take a quick break to talk about something that can make all the difference for your child's educational journey. I'm thrilled to share that this episode is sponsored by Top Schools, your trusted partner in navigating the complex world of school applications. If you're aiming for a top independent school in the UK, Top Schools offers personalised consulting to ensure your child finds the very best fit with a guaranteed outcome. From identifying those best fit schools to crafting standout applications to invigilating the entrance exams, the expert team is with you every step of the way. Ready to take control of your child's future? Visit topschoolsadmissions.com or click the link in the show notes to learn more and book a consultation today. Use the code DESTINATION for 20% off. That code is DESTINATION for 20% off personalised support for entry into a top independent boarding school in the UK. Now, back to our conversation.
I mean, I guess there must be a lot fewer prep schools in the UK than senior schools. Do you know how many there are?
I don't know exactly how many prep schools there are, I'm afraid, but they certainly are shrinking.
But
They're
your
a shrinking
school is
number.
only prep, so you're from 2 to 13.
So we're 2 to 13, girls and boys 2 to 13. So we have a pre-prep within the school, but it's all part of the same thing.
And it'll be interesting because we speak with a lot of heads of senior schools and sort of my own experience in working with families and even as a parent is mainly with senior schools. So I'm interested to understand more. Well, why don't we go there first?
Yeah,
I mean, why why would we choose to send our children to board at the age of 8 in 2025?
Well, I mean, first of all, let's be clear. A lot of our children don't board.
Right.
So a lot of our children are day children. So we, as a school, we have just under 450 children in total. We only have 70 beds. So we have 70 boarders. So it's we have more children with us who don't board. Mm-hmm. The children who do board, not many of them board at 8. Most of them board when they're sort of 11, 12, 13. Okay. Some board younger if we feel they're suited to it, and if the parents particularly need them to board. Maybe that they're travelling a lot, or they're overseas, or they're in the army, or something. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the first thing. Most of our children aren't quite that young. The reason why it would benefit lots of children is lots of different things. First of all, it's really good fun. It's a lovely environment. If you came and looked around our boarding house, it's like a home. It's really cosy and comfortable and fun. So they have a lovely time. Rather than commuting to school and back in traffic, as lots of children do, they get up in the morning and they're all together. They go and have breakfast. They play outside. Same in the evenings. They have a lovely, lovely time. So it's a good place to be. It helps develop independence, I think, for those who need it. It really helps them be part of a community and make great friends for life. It means that they can have teachers around supporting them while they're getting their work done. A lot of our children board weekly, so it means that during the school week they're at school, getting on with their busy school lives and having a great time. Their parents are getting on with their jobs, and then they go home on the weekend and have really good quality family time.
I think that's a perfect arrangement, actually, which you can do, obviously, if you live not too far away. We have one school in Hong Kong that does that. My son went there, actually, to begin with. Yeah. For our international boarders, a lot of our audience are not living in the UK, so attending as a day student wouldn't be an option. But so for that small contingent that are boarding, it makes sense that they're not actually boarding from 8, from 10, 11, 12. That does make more sense. Again, why? What is the situation of some of those students, and what's their experience in your school?
Well, again, they have a fantastic time. During the school day, they're completely integrated with all of the other children. So as you go about the school, in lessons and lunchtime and during sort of sports time and what have you, you wouldn't know who's a day child and who's a boarder. They're all just mixed in together. Yeah. So the overseas boarders and the British full boarders are just fully integrated into every part of school life. Obviously, the day children go home at about 6 or 7 o'clock, and from that point, the boarding house becomes a home, really. Right. The weekends, obviously, some of the children board with us from Monday to Friday, and they go home on the weekends, but we have a good number of children in on the weekends. And there's an amazing weekend programme planned. So every weekend, we'll be organising, trips to the theatre, trips to the cinema. They'll be going to the zoo, they'll be going to the beach, they'll be going sailing and paddleboarding and going on treasure hunts and amazing sort of trips and outings.
Basically just like having a sleepover every single weekend.
But as well as that, just having downtime at school, relaxing, getting up and having breakfast in their pyjamas.
There's some of our parents ask us, and when we look at a school, we do look at the number of British students compared with the number of internationals, and then also the number of day students compared with the number of boarders and all of that. I mean, what do you make of, I think that the dynamic, we can look at the stats, but the stats are just the stats. I mean, what do you think about what makes up a good
I think diversity is really important. In terms of
background
in terms of everything. So diversity in terms of ethnic background, in terms of race, religion, skin colour, everything. Just a really nice mixture. And we're quite a cosmopolitan school. We've got a really diverse.
What's the mix?
In terms of
the diversity.
Well, I can't give you any exact stats, but there's just a really good mix of different nationalities and different cultural backgrounds. So it's nice. But no, certainly in the boarding house, we really are striving to make sure we've got a good balance of people from different countries. So we have lots of British boarders who are with us, full time, 7 days a week. We have quite a number of sort of children from Asia, from Hong Kong and China, but we also have lots of children from the US, from Australia, from Spain, from Italy, Australia.
That's interesting.
Iceland.
Oh, wow.
Thailand. There's a really nice mixture of, and of course, lots of British children as well.
Yeah, it's important, isn't it? I wonder, I mean, obviously we do see quite a large pocket of Hong Kong and Chinese students in quite a lot of the schools.
Yeah.
And then how do you sort of really encourage them to integrate and not just to hang out with each other?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a little bit tricky to begin with. We make sure that they're split up during the day. So they're in different tutor groups and different classes and different houses and all that kind of thing. So that encourages them to sort of break away and get to know other people. Obviously, they're going to be drawn to each other a little bit, and that's fine to an extent. We try and encourage them to speak English, and not
encourage, but not force.
We don't force them to speak English all the time. Certainly the majority of the time. But if they want a few little kind of pockets of time when they can speak in their mother tongue, then okay, fair enough. But certainly if they were doing it too much, we'd step in and make sure they didn't do that. Because obviously a lot of them are with us to learn English primarily.
Do you think so?
I think a lot of them are, yeah. I mean, they're with us for lots of different reasons. They're with us to integrate into British culture, and a lot of them are with us because they want to go on to British senior schools and universities. But a number of them, not all, but a number of them come to us, and there is a bit of a need, certainly during the first year or so, to really help them boost their English. Yeah.
What do you find are some of the quirks and characteristics of the children? Maybe not so much the children, but maybe the parents.
We've found the parents from our overseas borders, you mean?
Particularly Hong Kong and China.
Yeah, the parents, they're lovely, very, very supportive. I had a lovely lunch yesterday with our parents who are based out here in Hong Kong with children at the school, and they're incredibly supportive. They really value education. They really put a huge value on education. So they're very supportive. They were all very welcoming to myself, welcoming us into Hong Kong. They want the best for their children. They want their children to work hard. They encourage their children to do lots of other things as well. So lots of them are very musical, for example, as well. A surprising number of them come to us as sort of grade 6 or 7 or 8 music. But they're very keen and supportive. And actually, our children from Hong Kong tend to do very, very well academically.
Yeah. What are some of the differences between maybe British parents and Asian parents?
I think maybe sometimes the Asian parents they sometimes put more pressure on their children academically. I think maybe higher expectations. They expect them to. They maybe focus a little bit more on the grades they're getting. And maybe worry a little bit more if any of the grades aren't quite as high as they think they should be. Yeah. That's a little bit of a difference. But no, we've found the Hong Kong and the Chinese parents to be incredibly supportive, just in every way. Really supportive.
Yeah. No, what you say about pressure, I mean, that's obviously well known, and there was a famous book, about the tiger mum. But I mean, I've lived and worked in Hong Kong for 30 years, and I do see differences. I just wonder, I find that it's almost like a mathematical approach applied to, I met parents, 2 days ago at an event that we had. And they literally looked me in the eye and said that we want our 2-year-old to go to Oxbridge. And this is not uncommon. I mean, I didn't even flinch. I've heard it so many times. I mean, do you hear that thing?
We do hear that. And it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, on the one hand, okay, fine, fair enough. You're investing a lot of money in the best education for your child that you can possibly get. You want the very best for them. And so there's nothing wrong in that. But I do believe that there's a balance to be struck. I think too much pressure on children potentially can be counterproductive, which is what we don't want. And the children do need time to just be children. They do need time to play. They need time to relax. They need time to not be constantly going from extra maths lesson to extra violin lesson to extra,
So when do you see that balance, going in the wrong direction? Like, what are some of the red flags, the warning signs?
I think if a child has been at school working hard all week and their Saturdays and Sundays are then largely filled up with structured activities, extra lessons and extra coaching and that kind of thing, then I think that's probably not quite the right balance. I mean, the odd thing maybe, fine, particularly if the children really want to do it. But they do, as I say, they do need time to relax, and just be children and play. The importance of play is huge, particularly with younger children.
Can I ask you about you have your own children? How old are they?
So mine are a little bit older now. I've got a boy who's 16 and a girl who's 14.
I commiserate.
So
was particular.
Yeah.
Mine are a bit older.
Okay.
And they're at Brighton College.
They're both at Brighton College, yeah.
And were they in your prep school?
So before I was at Handcross, I was at another prep school up in Worcestershire called Aberley Hall,
Yep.
Which was linked to Malvern College.
Oh, is it linked? Oh, we're meeting them next week or next week. Yeah.
Yeah. So and so they were there. They were there with me, and it was So my son, if I saw him in the corridor, he would basically just walk past and pretend he didn't even know me.
Yep.
Whereas my daughter would sort of come rushing up to me and give me great big hugs. And so when we moved to Sussex and to Handcross, they went straight to Brighton College rather than to my prep school.
Right, makes sense. I mean, back to the idea that, obviously as parents, we invest financially, obviously, but also emotionally. And I do think, whilst I ask you about differences, there are cultural differences in how we raise children. I think that one thing that unites all of us is we just want the best for them.
Yeah.
So with that as a baseline. So do you see any direct correlation between high expectations as parents and pressure and almost like a map to actual achievement at the end, whenever the end is?
Yeah, we do. I mean, yes. I mean, children need, I think, in order to end up achieving great things academically and educationally, I think they need to be an environment where education is really valued. So I think growing up in a household that does value education and does have high expectations and wants the child to work hard and do well is very important. But there's a balance. I think, at the same time, as I said, I think a child needs to grow up in an environment where they can not feel under too much pressure. I think if they start feeling very anxious, it potentially has a negative effect.
For sure.
And anxiety, what we see really is anxiety tends to come from parents often. So if a child is very anxious, quite often it's because there's a certain level of anxiety coming through from the parents at home.
But we have an epidemic of anxiety amongst our children today.
Yeah.
Are you saying that's directly related to the parents?
I think it's a combination of things, but I think it's partly related to parents. I think it's partly related to the atmosphere at home. But it's a combination of things. I think, social media potentially has quite a lot to answer for, exam pressure, the busyness of life. Our society is increasingly complicated, isn't it?
Yep.
And potentially stressful. But I do think, the power of play, the power of children being able to not be constantly striving, but actually just playing outside, going for a bike ride, climbing a tree, doing sport, those sorts of things really are very important. So it's about balance, really.
100%.
But I think going back to your question, I think in terms of children's, what children go on to achieve, then certainly the environment from home is very important. I think, for example, children growing up in a house where reading from a very, very, from birth, where reading is really celebrated and something that's a real joy, growing up around books and a love of reading and a love of stories and reading yourself and being read to, that has a huge impact on children. Things like being taken to the theatre, things like being taken to
Museums.
Zoos, whatever it might be, that kind of thing has a massive impact, as opposed to a child just sitting at home playing on computer games and not having that kind of stimulation.
This comes up all the time, and it's sometimes what I refer to as common sense parenting. But what's common sense to you and I might not be common sense to everyone. And I especially see this with a lot of younger parents now, or parents from different cultures. And even my own experience, I went to a private school and I sent my children to boarding school, but that I was the first, and that was not the norm in our family. I'm the first in our family to go to university. So it's different. So parents are parenting in a way that they weren't parented.
Yeah.
And I think they often feel a little bit lost or a lot lost.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. There's no guidebook, is there?
There isn't.
It's largely intuition. And I think your own experience as a child as well, how you were brought up. And I think sometimes certain things that maybe happened to you as a child, or certain ways that you were brought up as a child, sometimes you end up turning against those things, don't you? If they didn't work for you or you didn't like it.
Yeah, we see a lot of that in Hong Kong, like the local system. I'm sure you have a lot of children coming to you from local schools, and it's a very different system. So we have that. We have parents who are like, I'm not putting my children through what I went through. Yeah. Fair enough. Or you've got the parents that are trying to access a culture that they just really don't quite understand, and they're trying to access it in a way that, there's a lot of potential conflict, but a lot of adjustments needed.
And your families out here, obviously a number of them want to send their children to UK schools, UK boarding schools. Do you think they really understand the ethos of these schools and why? What is it that they want to buy into, do you think, more than anything else?
That's a really good question. Hang on, I'm the one supposed
to
be asking the questions. No, it's great. I'm happy to debate that. What are they buying into?
Yeah, what would you say?
Oh, if I'm totally honest, they buy brand.
Yeah, interesting.
They buy the handbag.
Yeah.
They buy the address.
They buy the big names.
They buy the car, and then they buy the school brand.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Not to be too much of a cynic about it. Now, having said that, I see my role as an advisor to steer them. I mean, my thing is all about best fit. So yes, they come to us with brand names that their friends, colleagues have suggested, but then it's our role that we take very seriously to steer them to choose the school that's going to suit them best.
The right brand,
But that's their starting point. And hopefully, if we do our job well, they don't stick there. And for some parents, it's like, well, I want my child to go to Oxbridge. Well, you can apply to either one. You can apply to Oxford or Cambridge, but not both. And you'll apply to 4 others as well. And you might apply to universities in different countries, and you'll see what you get.
Yeah.
Is that your experience?
Yeah, I mean, actually, from speaking to a lot of the parents, I think you're right about brand, and obviously we've recently rebranded ourselves as Brighton College Prep Handcross, partly for that reason, because brand is very important. But actually, from speaking to lots of our parents, I sense that what they're trying to tap into maybe is the holistic education that we provide. I slightly get the sense that some of the schools out here are very sort of narrowly focused on exam results and the academic side of things, whereas a school like ours, obviously that's an incredibly important aspect of what we're doing, but we're also educating far more broadly.
Yes.
We're educated, we're delivering amazing character education.
Yes.
And we're providing, sport and art and drama and music and, real breadth. And we're developing skills for life as well as just good academic exam results.
That's true.
I think they really value that.
Well, we have Brighton College in Singapore.
Yeah.
We have Abu Dhabi, I think.
Yeah.
And we also have British schools in Hong Kong. We have other international schools in Hong Kong. But I think it's pathway as well. If they're making the decision to send their children thousands of miles away, then it is the pathway. And it is for all of the things. Whilst our schools here can provide a holistic education, we don't have the space and then the boarding and all of that. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of independent schools in the UK, as should be obvious. But yes, good questions.
Yeah.
Back to what you were saying, you were a boarder from the age of 8.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't necessarily recommend, and maybe the other.
No, I mean, horses for courses. I think for a certain type of child, it's fine, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah. And so let's say you are boarding from 10 or 11 or 12. I mean, what are the differences in a prep school boarding now as compared to, say, just about 10 or 20 years ago when you were there?
It's just a lot cosier.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just a lot more comfortable, and physically it's a lot more comfortable. In our boarding house, we've recently just renovated it. We've completely renovated the whole place, and it's, I'm quite jealous of it. Really, it's like sort of going into a boutique hotel. It's really comfortable beds, amazing showers, lovely sort of communal areas and, reading areas. And so it's just a lovely physical environment. Certainly when I was at school, quite a long time ago at prep school, it wasn't like that. I don't think we even had any central heating, actually. But it was sort of felt a little bit, sort of leaking roofs
Austere.
and a bit cold and a bit austere. So that's a really big difference. And similarly, the attitude, I think, of the staff. The staff who work in our boarding house and who live on the school site, focusing on boarding, the be-all and the end-all for them really is to make sure that the children are first and foremost safe, and also just happy and really kind of well looked after. Any problems they might have, any worries, they're straight onto it. Making sure any problems are ironed out. They're communicating with parents, all the time, and that's the most important thing, which I don't think it used to be the case at all.
I think safety is a good word. That comes up a lot as well. I mean, what do you say to parents who do worry about sending their children so far away and that, are they going to be safe and happy? Yes,
I think they are. I mean, our environment is incredibly safe. I mean, physically it's very safe. We're in a beautiful countryside setting with sort of 55 acres of stunning, beautiful parkland in a very safe, quiet part of England. Just on the edge of a little village, so it is safe. In terms of security, we've got gates and cameras and CCTV and fences around the outside, and so it's very safe. Very high levels of supervision in terms of the number of staff around all the time, keeping an eye on the children and watching them and looking after them, and safeguarding and making sure the children are safe physically, emotionally, and what have you. Is the number one priority. All staff receive very, very regular safeguarding training, and they all know that is the most important thing we do.
And so what happens when it goes wrong? What happens when a child is homesick or worse? Like what are the procedures?
Yeah, so if a child's homesick, a child might be homesick to begin with. Sometimes when they first arrive, for that first week or two, it's obviously all very new.
Do you do that thing where you don't you discourage them from calling for the first week?
We let them call, but we encourage them not to call too much. I think if a child has just arrived in the UK and they're boarding for the first time and they're on the phone to mum and dad every night for long periods of time, it can actually make it worse.
Yep.
So we let them speak to mum and dad, but we try and encourage them not to speak too much while they're settling in, and that does help. We keep them busy.
Yeah.
They don't actually have time to be that homesick. And if they do get a little bit homesick, we quickly kind of occupy them doing something else. We get them out with their friends, doing some sort of fun activity, or baking, or playing sport, or going for a swim, or whatever it might be. Yeah. And that tends to do the job. But occasionally there's a child that does have a slightly more ongoing sort of battle with homesickness, and it's just there's no magic solution. It's a question of trying to get to understand the child and finding a bespoke solution. Speaking to the parents, really trying to get to know the individual and trying to work out what helps them.
I know that you're interested in the whole idea of neurodivergent children, and we touched on anxiety earlier. I don't know if that sort of comes under the general umbrella, but do you see children that are coming into your school with certain diagnoses or conditions, and can you just speak to that a bit?
Sometimes, probably no more than most other schools, but yeah, we do. We have children who have dyslexia, and we have a few children who have sort of mild ADHD and that kind of thing. And it's fine. We've got great support in place. What we actually have is we have a department. A lot of schools would call their learning support department a SEND department, so Special Educational Needs and Disabilities department, whereas we call ours learning enrichment. And it's an umbrella term at our school that spans children with specific learning needs, like dyslexia,
at
for example.
both ends of the spectrum.
But it also covers children who are extremely gifted and talented, who need that extra stretch and that extra challenge. And it also covers children with EAL, so English as an additional language, so children who might need support in getting to grips with English. And it also spans social and emotional type things. So a child with anxiety, let's say, or a child with some sort of other mental health challenge. So it's a really broad umbrella. because all children need support. It's
Yes,
not
at
just
some
the
point
children.
or other. Yes, yeah, I agree. We sometimes say that at some point, your child will very likely need some sort of support.
Yeah.
So yes,
In one way or other, they will get to a point where they need some sort of support. And as I
Yeah.
say, it might be that they need stretching because they're super academic,
Yeah.
and we don't want them to be getting bored.
in one area, but maybe slightly
and
needing
some of them have quite
support.
spiky profiles, so they might be very, very strong in some areas and lower in others. Like
Yeah.
my son, for example,
Yeah.
very, very strong in sort of verbal reasoning and English, but finds maths very difficult.
Right.
So yeah, it's all shapes and sizes, and it's just really our approach is trying to make sure that we get to know every single child as an individual, and trying to make sure we understand what makes them tick, and also making sure that the teachers, when they're planning lessons, that they try and remember and identify the fact there's lots of different styles of learning. So they might have a class of 16 children, but they'll all learn in different ways, and differentiation is very important.
Wouldn't you say? Sorry, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I probably believe that that's one of the key areas that we've changed in the last, say 30, 40, 50 years
Yeah,
ago.
definitely.
The teacher talked and the children listened, and we sat at single desks in rows, a bit more like the Hong Kong local system was. But obviously now we've got more project-based, inquiry-led. Would you agree?
Completely, yeah, absolutely. And it's, I suppose, increasingly the teacher has become a facilitator, rather than just someone standing up and, giving these children information to try and somehow absorb. It's a little bit more led by the children. It's also far more skills based, which I'm really excited about. So as well as just getting children to remember information, to regurgitate in an exam, it's about developing this actual real life skills that they're going to need in their future.
At prep school, I'm sure, I'm a big proponent of skills development, and I see all schools doing a wraparound with skills. But would you say, the core curriculum as it is, the key stages leading to GCSEs and A-levels, they still are pretty much, learn a lot of stuff, remember it and regurgitate it, are they not?
Yeah, they are. They are. Unfortunately, exams sort of seem to be a sort of necessary evil sometimes, don't they? But they are. A GCSE exam is about, not purely, but a lot of it is about remembering information and and working out how to play the game and do the exam well. But of course, education isn't just about exams. That's one of my real sort of deep beliefs. It's far broader than that. We're educating children for life, and we're educating. We want children to, to want to learn and to be interested in education for the sake of it, rather than just because they've got to do an exam.
So are the exams almost getting in the way of the skills that our children need to develop for their future success?
I suppose you could argue that. Getting in the way. I think exams have evolved a little bit. So for example, in the UK, all prep schools used to do common entrance at the age of 13, and we've moved away from that, and we've moved towards a far more sort of skills-heavy curriculum, particularly in years 7 and 8. And of course, we're gearing the children up towards their GCSEs, and they're going to have to do exams when they get to their GCSEs. So we're still giving them that exam practice and still getting them ready for those sorts of exams. But far more, we are teaching skills. We're trying to make sure that the children are being creative. We're trying to develop presentation skills, IT skills, problem-solving skills, which are genuinely going to go on and help them live happy and successful lives. So we're doing that as well as making sure they get great exam results.
I totally get it. As a parent, as an advisor, but I'm just thinking back to a lot of the parents that we speak to, especially in this part of the world. They're like, well, yes, but there's nothing concrete. My children still don't need to demonstrate these skills in order to get into Oxford. Maybe a little bit, but basically it's still about grades.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's, of course, they need to get good grades. If they want to go to Oxford, you need 3 A stars. So, of course, it's about the grades, but it's about more than that. Getting 3 A stars is fantastic, but it's not enough it's probably not enough to get into Oxford or Cambridge or Durham. But it's probably also not enough to get a great job and be happy in life. Those great grades obviously open certain doors, which are very important. But Oxbridge, for example, are still looking for someone who's got that little sparkle behind their eyes. They're interesting. you know, they've got something about them, rather than just someone who's a sort of an exam machine.
Are the Oxford and Cambridge the only two a small number of universities that do interviews?
Yeah, I think a number do. I mean, Oxford and Cambridge do. Durham certainly does. I think a number do.
Not for all subjects.
Maybe not for all subjects, but they certainly do them for, you know, I certainly have one. So they do them for some.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
But of course, you know, even if they're not interviewing someone, they're looking at the exam grades, but they're also looking at all the other things people have done. They're looking at whether a child has played sport. They're looking at whether a child has done Lambda. They're looking at whether a child's done D of E. They're looking at... I think they are, yeah.
Are they? I was talking to someone the other day that was talking to university counsellors. Sorry, I know your prep school, we're getting a little bit up the tree.
Yeah, it's not my area of specialisation.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
But certainly, you know, what I'm in the business of doing more is getting children into senior schools.
Yeah.
You know, year 9, and certainly senior schools.
They do interviews.
Well, they certainly do interviews, but they're absolutely looking for a rounded child. You know, the exam results they get are important, but that's only half the picture. They're very much looking for a child that gets involved in lots of different things and has a go at things and has interests and has an opinion, and they definitely do an interview. Yeah. And in that interview, the child needs to come across as someone who can have a conversation and someone who maybe has got a sense of humour and someone who, you know, is interested in the world around them.
Yeah. What's the connection between Brighton College and your prep school? Is there a direct, is there priority for entry, or how does it work?
Yeah, well, so we've always sent lots of our children to Brighton College and other schools as well. It's not only Brighton College. Yeah. You know, I think we're over the last few years we've been sending more children to Brighton College. There's no guarantee. So there's no guarantee that a child from our school will automatically get a place at Brighton. So they still have to have an assessment. Generally, our children in the UK do the ISEB pre-test. In year 6, in November of year 6, so when they're around about the age of 11, and then all being well, they then go to Brighton College for a day where they'll do various group tasks and they'll have interviews and what have you, and they'll then get offered a place for year 9 when they're 13. Right. If they don't get a place at Brighton College, they go to lots of other fantastic schools. So we send children to, you know, I think over the last 4 years, we've sent children to about 45 different senior schools.
We have I think we're running out of time, but we have a little bit more time if you have time. We talked a bit about, you know, your time at prep school and how it's very different today. Assuming you're still working in this industry in another 10 years' time, how do you see it changing in the next sort of decade or two?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it's fast changing at the moment. The prep school landscape and senior school landscape is changing fast. I think what we're seeing at the moment is some of the smaller, lovely little small prep schools of sort of 150 children, maybe up to about 200 children. Those prep schools that have been standalone, in other words, completely not connected to any other group, are sadly dying out. Not all of them, but a lot of them are closing, or they're merging with senior schools, or they're merging with big educational groups. So that's something
necessary
I think we're
for their own survival.
I think it is, and I think that's something we're going to see more of.
Yeah,
which is sad, but I think we are going to see more of that. And I think we're going to have some of the bigger, more successful prep schools like ours and others going from strength to strength, and you know, getting a little bit bigger. And it's those sorts of schools that are going to be able to invest in the best teachers. They're going to be able to invest in the best facilities, and they're going to be able to make sure that the quality of what they're offering just keeps on getting better and better. Whereas the schools sort of rung down, who maybe are struggling a little bit financially, they can't quite, you know, recruit the best teachers, and their facilities are starting to creak. I think that they're in trouble a little bit.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
It's a shame. It's becoming a little bit more. It's
commercial.
It's consolidating. It's becoming a little bit more commercial, and these prep schools really do need to think commercially. They really do. They've got to make sure they're making getting as much income as they can through sort of commercial means as well. You know, renting out their swimming pools and their astro pitches and holiday clubs and all that kind of thing.
All of the licensed schools in Asia, Middle East, joint ventures and all of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
all of that.
Brighton College is in Singapore, Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, it's got 3 schools in the UAE.
Okay.
It's got Singapore. It's just opened 3 schools in Europe. So it's just announced that they're going to be opening a school in Lisbon, Madrid,
Yes,
and
I read that, yeah.
where's the other one? Rome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to have a posting to one of those?
Yeah, well, it'd be exciting, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think not quite at the moment. But
Wouldn't mind Rome. Yeah. Just a few questions to end then. I realise your time is valuable. What's been the most rewarding or memorable moment from your time as a headmaster?
Oh, yeah, good question. My most rewarding time as a head, I can't think of any particular one thing. I mean, I think generally a time that has always been very rewarding is when you get to the end of the academic year and you see your leavers, you see your year 8s, and you see what they've achieved during their time, and you see what confident and accomplished people they've grown into. And you can celebrate their exam success and their scholarships and the fact they're going on to such amazing schools. That's always very rewarding. And you have that little moment just to sort of pause and look back on the year and sort of celebrate everything that's happened. So that's always a really, really special moment. I think sort of building projects is something I'm always quite interested in. I think, successfully, when we recently successfully completed the renovation and expansion of our boarding house, that was a really great moment to sort of just take a step back and look at how fantastic it was. So it's little things like that. Yeah.
What projects are you working on at the moment?
We are working on all sorts of projects. So actually my office has just been renovated. Okay. Which is now looking almost finished. It's looking very, very smart. And we've also just created an admissions lounge for parents. Okay. So when our prospective parents come to visit, we've now got a lovely, very smart sort of lounge for them to sit and drink coffee in and chat in. So,
tea, surely. Tea
and coffee. Yeah.
If there's one piece of advice that if parents ask you, how can I nurture my child to reach their potential? A bit of a cliche, but what is there one piece of advice that you would impart?
How to nurture your child to reach their potential? Well, I mean, it might sound a little bit, sort of woolly. I don't know, but I think just a child growing up in an environment where they know that they're unconditionally loved, and where they know that they're safe and they're really valued for who they are. Is incredibly important. I think if a child grows up with that sort of foundation of, knowing they're valued and loved and safe, and then they generally go on and achieve amazing things.
I
think a child growing up feeling they have to earn that kind of affection or love from their parents by doing well in exams, and that's not so good. I think if you've got a child that's emotionally healthy and really secure. And they can fail sometimes, and that's okay. They're still absolutely, as I say, loved unconditionally. Then I think that gives them a real bedrock to go on and achieve amazing things.
I couldn't agree more. And it comes back to, I think it's common sense parenting, and it's hard. It's easy to say, but it's potentially hard to do, right? Especially, I've got 2, you've got 2. They're very different from one another, and then they throw you curveballs all the time.
It's difficult. It's difficult, and it can be stressful. And then children go through the teenage years, and it all goes a bit haywire. What's
your key challenge so far as a parent? You said you had a son who's 16. My son was not the nicest when he was 16.
I'm pretty lucky. My kids are pretty good. I mean, Archie, my son, he works very hard. He's just done his GCSEs. Okay. Did really well. Worked very, very hard. He's really into his running. Actually, with him, sometimes it's a question of encouraging him just to take a break and not put too much pressure on himself. My daughter is a little bit more interested in sort of partying and having fun, but she's also working really hard. Yeah. So no, I'm very proud of both of them.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. And if you had the opportunity to give someone unsolicited advice, what would that advice be?
Unsolicited advice. Oh, right. Okay. I think something we were talking about earlier that I think a lot of parents either don't know or they forget is that the environment at home, children are like sponges. They just soak up everything around them. They're constantly watching their parents. So they'll watch how their parents are interacting with other adults. They'll watch how parents deal with setbacks. They'll watch how parents deal with stress, you know, and they learn and they absorb all of that, and they absorb the environment at home. And I do think sometimes if parents are very stressed and maybe short-tempered and anxious, and that does get soaked up by children.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's quite a scary thing to think about, because none of us are perfect, of course. But I think it's really good if parents can just remember that they are modelling all the time the kinds of behaviours and attitudes that the children will be soaking up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, we said earlier that the children, they don't come with a manual.
No.
And I was talking to another head that, you know, as parents or even as teachers, wouldn't it be nice if we had some sort of psychology training, you know, before we take on that role? How much more well equipped would we be? And one of the psychologists that I work with as well, and he has a great saying that, you know, for some children who do go through some of the testing, you know, whether they are dyslexic or ADHD, which an increasing number.
Yeah.
And he says, you know, you get this 45-page report. I mean, what a gift. This is a manual to your child, an insight into how your child's brain works. What a gift. Yeah.
And actually, I agree. And the science of the brain is so important. We've been working with a brilliant organisation recently called Action Your Potential, based over in the UK. And they do talks to us as staff. They do sessions with the children and with the parents. And really, one of the main things they're talking about is the actual science of how your brain works. So when you feel in a certain way, that's because this chemical is being released in your brain, and this is why it's happening. And I don't think actually teachers do that enough. You know, stopping and actually thinking about the science of the brain, because obviously that's the business we're all in, really.
As if being a teacher wasn't complicated enough already.
Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Been a great chat. Thank you for coming by. And I'm sure all of our parents listening will be interested. And if they want to contact you, we'll put all of your details in the
please do. Yeah,
show notes.
Please do. No, thank you. It's been great. It's been great to chat.
Cheers. Thank you.
I hope I missed the typhoon later on.
Hope you get back safely.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If today's episode sparked questions, or if you're ready for support with UK boarding school admissions, we're here to help. Reach out to us at www.topschoolsadmissions.com or follow the link in the show notes. Your child's exceptional UK boarding school educational journey starts with a conversation, so let's have a chat.